Welcome to Women in Leadership Talk, where you'll hear from successful women who are empowering other women with their stories of adversity, resiliency, and success. And here is your host, Vicki Bradley, founder and CEO of Women in Leadership Empowered.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Women in Leadership Talk podcast. Thank you for being here. We are so grateful that you continue to chime in from 50 plus countries around the world. That means the world to us. And to keep us doing that and keep us growing, please do share the podcast. Give us a review, give us a like, let us know how we're doing, and let us know the guests that you really are enjoying listening to. So I have a very special guest today, and I can't wait to dive into our conversation. And I know you guys are thinking, oh, Vicki, you get excited about all your guests, which I do. But where we are today in this world, I think this conversation is really going to resonate with a lot of you. And so I would love to hear your feedback. So without further ado, let me introduce you to Sukaiyna Gokal. She's joining us from Dubai, and we're thrilled to have her here. And I'm going to call her Suki to make it easier for everybody. But again, it is Sukaiyna. Okay. So Suki, welcome. Thank you so much. I know you've had a full day because we're on different time zones. So you've had a full day, and thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you so much for having me, Vicki. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Well, we're thrilled to have you. And I want to give our audience some background on you so they understand why I'm so excited for us to have this conversation today. But Suki established Garden of Aiden in 2012. This is the first self-healing platform available in 28 languages. Now that works nicely because we're in 50 plus countries. So we have a lot of different languages that are being spoken or heard. And so her work is available in 28 languages. She draws on her studies in psychology and a diverse range of cultural and spiritual teachings. She believes true luxury is nurturing our mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. Through her work, she intends to tie a thread of unity across the world, one where we can all stand together united on the principles of respect and boundaries. Oh my goodness, we so need that right now. Suki is also the author of The Human Touch, which is the ultimate guide to unearthing these crucial answers integral to achieving inner peace and greater global unity. So Suki, when I read your bio, I had goosebumps because I was like, oh my gosh, it was almost like the universe just brought you to me at this moment in time. And, you know, there's so much noise, as we were talking about before we started the podcast. There's so much noise going on. And so, you know, where I want to start today is, who are you being and why do you do what you do?
You gave me goosebumps too when you were reading it, Vicki. Who am I? Basically, I consider myself to be a mirror for anyone, anywhere, because I think my journey led me to a multicultural journey, led me to wanting to understand the diversity and yet find the common elements among all of us. And where we get divided by culture or religion, I believe that the baseline of humanity has to be the same. Mm-hmm. And we all come from the same source, and we return to the same source. And I find that intelligent people can sometimes be naive or ignorant about the things that actually unite us as opposed to separate us. Mm-hmm. So I find... Carry on.
No, I was just going to say that's such a great point. Yes, please. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, don't worry. And so I really do believe that, in essence, all of my work, having studied all the religions, studying different cultures, studying all the different schools of thought, and creating a toolbox of simplicity, where a process that we can untangle all of these narratives for ourselves, because no one can guide us as best as we can guide ourselves. And knowing ourselves is ultimately the journey.
Yes. Know thyself.
Know thyself. And the dualities are what mess with us. because there's many different narratives. There's indoctrination each one of us has had from childhood, being born from two parents with different stories. And when it comes down to it, we need to find our own truths and be able to function from a place of peace within ourselves.
Absolutely. I love that. So that helps us understand why. So you're looking to help people find this commonality.
Commonality, as well as find your own truths and do it with acceptance of everyone else's truths.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than wanting to be right and insisting that you are right, allowing each person the respect of being who they are and giving them that freedom without any judgment.
Yeah. So why do you think as beings we have such a hard time doing that? Because, even what you started out with regards to, we all start with the same foundation basically, right? And that morphs and changes, and we create our stories. How do we become so divided, or feel like we have to fall on our sword of being right?
I'll tell you a little story from the human touch. So imagine a parent walks into a room, parents are arriving somewhere. The child runs ahead, sees a dog, runs to the dog, cuddles it. Mother walks in, screams because she's had a fear of dogs since she's a child. And the child suddenly unconsciously learns a fear that's not theirs to be had. And then we carry all of these things that we're indoctrinated with through our lives. And we're talking, if we're looking at the whole world, I'm very multicultural because I grew up in a very different place from where I was born. And I've been around the world. So the whole notion of us all being one, because I don't necessarily resonate with my origins, and I feel that we are all the same and we are all one. And any country I went to, people thought I was from that country because I could be from anywhere. And you sort of wonder why people have such narrow views on things rather than opening themselves to understand that another human being is born of the same elements. And we all have a mind, heart, soul, and body. So why do we gain so much opinion about others rather than seeing people with curiosity and understanding who they are from where they stem from, as opposed to judging them the minute we look at them?
I love
Or
that.
understand where they're from.
I love that. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And we have learned those behaviors. So when you developed the Garden of Aiden, so what really prompted that? And tell us a bit more about that, and why you created this.
So I was gifted late in my life that my son decided for me to be his mother at the age of 40.
Okay.
And I got married the first time I was 19 years old, and all I wanted was a football team, children. And getting pregnant at the age of 40 as a miracle, and realizing that, oh my God, I don't want my child to grow up with all the issues I grew up with. And I want to have a base of peace and harmony for him that I didn't have. So what is there out there for me? And I didn't find what I was looking for, because I wanted something that ties in all schools of thought and that I can really go to the depth of essence of knowledge and understanding, which is actually simplicity. And decided to create Garden of Aiden. My son's name is Aiden.
Oh, beautiful. Okay, beautiful.
And yes, and so Garden of Aiden is like a twist on Garden of Eden. And it happened very naturally and organically. It wasn't planned like that. And so I became a nerd at 40.
Okay.
And studied, and then developed Garden of Aiden. And I started working with children first. And then I realized that children get their issues from their parents. And then went into parenting classes, and then realized that every adult has a child within them. And it became a whole school of thought and methodology, which is now in the human touch. And I worked with 1,000 people before putting the book out.
Nice.
So the method is basically why I do it the way I do, is normal psychologists or psychotherapists, when you go and see someone, they have a white piece of paper in front of them. And they ask you to tell them about your life and all that. I work with a form that's a very deep, detailed form with many questions that you fill before coming to see me. So I actually study the person and I've integrated them into me before they sit in front of me, so that you're actually working from the start directly on topics and issues that they have, because you can see through when you've read the narrative.
100%.
And we all have narratives. We have so many narratives.
Yeah. And sometimes we don't even realize we have narratives, right? Like, so a couple of things you said, like, really hit me there. And I think about even myself, like, I went back to school a couple of years ago and something came out of work that I was doing that unlocked one of those narratives that I had buried so deep, but it was the key to me understanding why I am the way that I am. Right. But I mean, I'm 59 years old, right? And it took me till I was 57 to even ask those questions, to your point, and really go inwardly to
Mhm.
discover what was going on.
Hence why the importance of actually understanding ourselves deeply.
Yes.
And really, that's why I created the human touch the way I did. And it's full of QR codes, which are self-reflective exercises and things you do on the journey. And when you go back and look at them, by the time you've reached the end of the book, you can actually note how much you've changed yourself.
Love that.
So it's you with you.
Yeah. Well, and that's, at the end of the day, that's all there is. I mean, you and source, but however you view source, but it's you and source. And so it
Yes.
is that's where the noise, when we were talking earlier about, there's so much noise around, and it's hard to shut that noise out because there's so much of it coming at you so many ways. And then you go, what's wrong with me? why am I different from what the masses are doing? And that's an important question, I think, even on that self-discovery, is why am I seeing things this way?
I think that if one is able to separate the noise and just take distance from it a little bit and detach, um, and not detach only with mind, but with heart too, detach the emotions, right? And stay with your heart, because the heart truly knows the answers and your intuition knows the answers. And a lot of times we get caught up with the brain and the mind as opposed to following the heart and intuition. So we get locked in judgment or mindset, which is a narrative that other people want you to believe. And yet you kind of have a discussion with yourself because you're uncomfortable with what you're being led to believe without actually questioning whether it's your truth.
Mm-hmm.
So untangling and unlearning all the things that we've been taught to be able to look at things afresh is a journey.
Yeah.
And the reason I wrote The Human Touch the way I did, I mean, I had to go through sessions with 1,000 people before I had the courage to put myself out and to be sitting in front of you. Because a lot of times that self-doubt, even though we know our truth and we've followed our truth, to actually bring it out into the world, because there is so much judgment and there is so much noise, and you have to be courageous enough to stand up to it, right?
Absolutely.
And to share it in a peaceful and human way. Hence why there's 28 languages, and there will be more, because if we can all unite on principles that everyone agrees on, and there's nothing in the book that contradicts any religion, any school of thought.
Yeah.
So if we can all unite, then that would be amazing, because then you
Oh.
have a peaceful world.
Oh my goodness, that would be, so how do we get the human touch in every hand around the planet? I mean, truly, like what you're describing, like, I so agree with you. I so agree with you. It does take that courage to put yourself out there. And, it's natural, it's normal to have, that running through your head. What if nobody buys my book? What if this doesn't resonate with anyone? And I come from the school of, well, what if it does? What if it impacts a lot of people?
Well, actually, it's funny because I've never put myself in the position to say, well, what if nobody buys my book? Because I feel like it's there. It's like a garden. The flowers are there for everyone to smell.
Mm.
And it's up to each person whether they go and enjoy it or they don't, and whether they listen to the birds chirping or the wind tickling their face. It's each person's journey, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes when I was teaching the parenting classes and I had kids classes running simultaneous, it was so cool because I could see the parents and the kid and what the issue was and solve them really quietly. But sometimes the parents walking out of the school with their phones and the kid walking behind them are the ones who need the work, but they're the last ones who would approach it. The people who would come towards my work are those who are already inclined towards it.
Yes. Yes.
So how do you reach those who actually don't know that they need the self-reflection? And it's not about people having issues or difficulty. Everybody can do with some self-reflection, right?
Yeah.
To up their game.
Yeah.
And to open themselves. Yeah.
100%, 100%. And something you said earlier about, the answers do lie within you, right? It's just, you got to unlock it. If you're so inclined. Some people aren't, and some people might want to carry on as they are. But it's really cool when you get to know you. You're a pretty amazing person, right? And so when you really get to know you, that's like where all the magic happens. And you show up different. Therefore, you might, and it's not about somebody else, but when somebody else sees you showing up differently, it can plant a seed, right? It's like the garden you were talking about, when they start to shed, sometimes that spreads seeds and more flowers grow. And, I think about a conversation I had with a friend one day. She called me up and it was snowing, and it was in November, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, it's snowing and I can't believe it's November." And I was like, "I know, isn't it gorgeous?" I said, "The ground is just blanketed with this beautiful white blanket." And she said to me, "Oh, Vicki, you kill me. You're so positive." And I went, "I know, it's a choice." But what I saw, Suki, from that, and that's just a very simplistic example of what we're talking about, but what I saw from that is I started noticing over time, her language changed from negatives to more engaging and more positive, optimistic outlook, and seeing things as possible versus that can never happen. So when we know ourselves, we're allowing others to have a true glimpse of our truth, but also maybe getting some of that curiosity that you talked about for themselves.
Absolutely. And I mean, we have, we're such complex creatures, right? We have not only the indoctrination, we have left brain, right brain, we have different modalities, whether we're kinesthetic, whether we're visual, whether we're auditory. There's so many different pieces to it. And there's so many different ways that one can see that. I mean, in the QR codes, you even have some tests that help you to actually discover those pieces, other people's tests that are amazing. So I'm saying it's to open up the ground for everyone to really know themselves deeply in all sides of themselves. The love languages, right? And the communication of a couple and how they communicate and each one's basic instincts. So there's so many pieces to us, and it's so much fun to delve into it, because where people sometimes fear knowing themselves, they realize that they polish the diamond and they find so much sparkle inside, right?
Oh, beautifully said. Oh, yes. Love that.
Yes. And it's about finding the light, ultimately. And there's so much darkness in our world today.
There certainly is. And keeping that vibration high and keeping true to who you are, and that alignment is hard. It's hard to do, right? Even when you are, let's say, the most in tuned person possible to yourself, these influences are still there. And dark is always, it's easy for dark to overshadow the light. And so trying to keep that light very bright and keeping it at its optimal is so important, especially given where we are in the world.
Vicki, for me, the light if I had to darken this room right now, I'd have to close, and these are not big curtains, but I'd have to find blackout, close all the curtains, even the peep on the door hole would have to be quietened, right? But if you're in darkness and you light one small flame, you lighten the room. So actually light has much more power than dark does. And if one is just to frame it like that, then you can reframe all sides of it, right?
Wow.
And if you close your eyes, and later maybe if you close your eyes and you just look inside and you spend a few minutes, and you'll find that you find a light inside, that with your eyes closed, you will see light. And you can brighten that light and you can dim that light. Kids who had an issue with the dark or being scared of the dark, and I taught them that, and they were walking downstairs with the lights off after that.
Oh, wow.
Because so the minute you find that light within and you realize that you are light, any darkness that comes towards you, you feel it, because your energy and your intuition will recognize it, and you can see people who bring you light and people who are dark for you. And one has to zip up one's energy. All these tools are in the book. You zip up your energy and you ensure that you stay in the light, right? Because yes, the evil forces or the dark forces have power, which is why we work to staying in the light, right?
Yeah. I love the example you just shared there about being in the dark room and lighting whatever it is, a candle or a lighter or whatever. And that does, like, if you think about it, there's always like a halo, right? So it expands. That's a really visually in my mind now, that's going to be implanted, right?
Good.
So that, when things get heavy, let's say, or dark, you can start to really concentrate on the light and how do you expand the light. Yeah. So go ahead, Suki.
I was going to say that I think that the journey is about detachment, in that when we hear all the noise or all the hatred or all the darkness or things that don't resonate, to really find that space of non-judgment, to be able to just stand back and just look at things and see how they feel inside, rather than listening without any discernment.
Yeah.
Because once we discern our truths, and that's the journey, is knowing yourself, know universe, know, understand everything by knowing yourself first, right?
Yeah.
Once we know ourselves, then you feel everything around you and you can tell what brings you light and what doesn't, and what makes you feel better about yourself or not. And that helps you to discern people also, and to know who you need to help or who you need to avoid, or, all those pieces, right? With no judgment, then we don't avoid anybody, because we accept people for who they are. We allow them their truths, or we work with them to help them reframe some things if they're on the wrong path, right? But we all have our little bit to do for universe to heal, I feel.
Oh, agreed. 100%. 100%. And how we show up for that, to your point, is so important.
Yeah.
Right? Those thoughts, the beliefs, like what you feed yourself. If you're feeding, first thing in the morning, this was part of my call early this morning, was, are you feeding yourself the news, the reels of, or are you getting up and being grateful for, right? And there's a lot of power in that, for sure.
Yeah.
Not always easy. I mean, I know we probably have listeners who are saying, oh yeah, easy for you to say, but it's a practice, right? It's a building of muscles to be very intentional about how you want to show up. And it sounds like you've got a lot of great exercises in the human touch to help people start to recognize that.
100%, because I felt it was important. It's one thing to share the methodology in theory, and it's another thing for them to actually practice it. So it's literally as if someone is sitting in front of me in a session. All the tools are there for you to do for yourself, because I don't think there's anyone better than our own selves to untangle our own truths, right?
Well, it's true. It's true. I mean, when I'm working with clients, one of the first things I share with them is, you already know the answers. My job is to help you unpack it to help you enhance where you're heading, what you want. And that's completely your choice, right? It has nothing to do with me, but I'm going to ask you the questions to help you unpack that even more so.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
At the end of the muse, there's also the workbook and a QR code for you to actually download and fill all the pieces of things of your new narratives and how you want to play them out.
Nice. Love that.
Yes.
What a gift. Oh, wow. That's wonderful. So I want to continue our conversation here.
Sure.
That's okay. No, one of the comments that you made about perspective that I think is something really important, and I'd like us to dive into it more, is whether a mistake is misery or a miracle. And it's in alignment with what we're talking about to a degree. So let's dive into that a little bit and helping people shift perspective, because we do get caught in that cycle of I have to be right, I know more, I know better, whatever analogies that come to people. But I loved when you said, is it misery or a miracle? Because, and I'm a firm believer in most things happen to teach us something.
So, from my perspective, through my life, every time something happened that didn't go according to plan, I would look up and say, I wonder why this is happening. And I would take it as a universal yes or no. I mean, man proposes, universe disposes, right? It's universe that decides our path. And a lot of times we don't know what's happening. So there's two things I feel like saying at the same time. One is Nietzsche's term of amor fati, which is a term I absolutely love, which is love of fate. So if one is coming from a position of being very open to anything that happens, rather than believing that with our ego we control anything, because we actually don't, the minute we let go of that and we relinquish any fight with that control, then you're kind of looking in wonder and amazement and saying, I wonder why that happened. So when looking at a certain game plan for Garden of Aiden right in the beginning fell through, and I was like, And then I got approached by the school I wanted to teach at. Right. So, and like that, it's a silly example, but there's many different things that happen along our path. And we wonder, because retrospect is always crystal clear, right? But in the moment, how we decide to interpret or accept or embrace a new reality of whatever's coming changes how it plays out.
100%.
Be it simply by the parking in the car park, and are you going to get a space or you're not? And if you say you're going to get a space and you're confident you will. So rather than overthinking in a negative narrative, by leaving yourself open and actually keeping the brain empty, because you can only be full if you're empty. The best ideas on a Tuesday morning as you're brushing your teeth can't arrive if you're busy thinking about too many things.
Wow, that's a great point. Great point. Having that space, and you see that, you see people who are innovative, right? Creating that space so that they can be innovative, because the more you do it, instead of filling your head with worry and all the things that you can't control, to your point.
It's a trust with a capital D in universe's ultimate divine plan, right?
Yeah.
And being able to accept that we are listening to our intuition, we're listening to the signs of how we want to proceed with something, as opposed to doing them the way we're told we should do them. And that's been my struggle, meaning I've built Garden of Aiden. It's been now, as I said, it's the 14th year. And taking it step by step, because you want it to be wholesome and you want it to be authentic. And allow people to come to the light that shines, as opposed to forcing people into something. Does that make sense?
100%. So an example that just recently happened to me, I'll share quickly. And it took me, I had to step back because I had in my mind, I had already gotten to a place, right? But the universe was saying, no, that's not where you need to go. Right. And so I'm doing some research. I'm doing my doctorate. And in my mind, I had this all worked out. I'm going to go into a couple of organizations. I'm going to help them with, understanding what happens when there's trust, when there's distrust, these power dynamics that are happening. And Suki, I can't tell you how many corporations I talked to, and they all were like, nope, 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 don't want to take part. And I was getting so deflated, right? Because I was like, oh my gosh, like I have to get my research done.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got quiet and I was sitting and I was like, maybe I need to shift, right? Because I kept getting no, no, no. And I asked that question. I'm like, okay, what am I supposed to learn from this? Like, what is happening that I need to look at differently? And then what ended up happening, I had a conversation with my professor, my supervisor, and we discussed it. And I said, I'm thinking of shifting. And she said, well, I was thinking about that for you too. And she said, maybe it's not corporations you need to go into. Maybe it's the people that have lived these experiences that you need to focus your energy on. And it was as if like I had been called to this. Like it was, and that's just a simple example as well. But at least instead of getting upset and self-doubting and all of these, I was like, okay, what is the universe trying to tell me here? Right.
Mm.
So that's an example of what you're sharing with the work you're doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And being able to listen to it with humility. To listen to universe with humility and not presume that we're right. That's exactly the point, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of us get caught up with thinking that we know and we're right and everything has to be as we've planned it. And that could be a voice in your head from your childhood. It could be a parent. It could be a society or a way things are meant to play out. And all of those things are cages, actually.
Yeah. It's true. It puts you into a box, into a cage. And visually, when you can see that and know that,
Yeah.
it helps you to want to have that freedom of thought, freedom of exploring, that curiosity that you were talking about earlier, and not getting caught up in that space of having to know everything, trusting that this is all going to
Trusting.
work out. Yeah.
And also, so the way I outline it in the book is that there's two ways we can perceive life, inward out or outward in. And if you're looking at life outward in, that means that anything other people are thinking about you or any judgments people have about you or how people are behaving with you is actually defining your everyday, and it's full of unease and being completely unsettled. If you're inward out, you know that you're living to your highest and best taskmaster of yourself, and you're setting your highest standards. And then nothing can mess with that because anything coming at you, you know that you've done your best in everything you're doing. So no one can criticize or say something about you, because if they do, you'll smile because you'll say, okay, let them think what they like.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're skinny and someone calls you fat, you can easily laugh at that. But if someone makes a criticism of something that can't be proven because most things cannot be seen or touched, right? That people actually hit at. So that's where one has to have the self-confidence to say, well, I've done my best. I know I'm doing my best.
Mm-hmm.
And please have your opinion. That's okay. I'm fine with it. Because everything anyone says speaks about them. It doesn't speak about you.
Yeah. No, it's true. Oh yeah, that so resonates. Like I had a friend in the new year said to me, can you tell me all the great things that I've done this year? And she was looking for that external validation, and which was very sweet. But I said to her, I said, it has nothing to do with what I think you did. What do you think you did? And really looking at yourself, what have you accomplished? Because external validation is somebody else's thought. It's not yours. What do you believe internally of who you are being? And
Sorry, go ahead.
no, that's okay. I was just going to say it took a bit, because she was like, no, like, here's what I saw you do. And I'm like, thank you, to your point. Thank you. I appreciate that. but it's what I believe internally, right? And that inner for all of us is so paramount in you feeding yourself with, knowing. It all comes down to know thyself.
And why do we give people the honor of us speculating what they think of us? And why do we give them the grace of having that hold on us?
Yeah. Great question. I love that. Yeah. Well, yeah, because you let
Because,
your power go, right? Like
yeah,
that's
100%. You're giving it to them
yeah, because what you
on a
think,
silver platter.
yes, what you think is more important than what I think. And no, it starts with self. Yeah,
It all starts with us.
it does. Wow.
Eh,
Suki.
but not in an egotistical or narcissistic way. It's about you knowing yourself and detaching with everything else from, meaning our own opinions should be quiet. They shouldn't have to be loud, right?
Yeah.
Because if we know ourselves well, then we're actually open to listening to everyone else. So it fascinates me how there's so many intelligent people in the world in positions of very high authority who somehow seem quite ignorant about the most basic of things. And it fascinates me. I don't understand it.
Mm.
And I really hope that the human touch touches the most hard-headed people to be able to self-reflect a little bit.
Yes. I mean, that would be optimal, right? That just open it. And even if you take one thing, if you're listening to this podcast and you take one thing from our conversation today, like that has an impact. Or you heard this conversation today and you share it with somebody to say, hey, let's look at things a little differently. Why do I feel I have to control everything? Or why am I judging, this, and this? Or, how am I judging myself? Like that's the hardest, I think, is that negative self-talk we have for ourselves. And catch yourself saying good things to yourself.
Absolutely. We're the toughest on ourselves.
Yeah, for sure.
It's easy, like if you have someone having an assessment and they'll say 10 nice things and they'll say one negative thing. You will focus only on the one negative thing, right? And if we know ourselves deeply, we know that we're constantly learning. We're all on the same curve. We're just at different stations in the journey of the same, it's all the same journey. Everyone's on the same journey. The whole planet is on the same journey. If only we were to realize that, right?
Well, that's the secret, right? Is it's knowing that we all are. And how do you, whatever stage you're in, looking at that and accepting that and being curious about, you can be at that stage and stay at that stage if that's what you want. But it is about knowing you and being in alignment with you.
Going back to the thing about if whatever anyone says speaks about them.
Mm-hmm.
If someone talks about another person's bad intentions, right? What they're actually saying is that they have those bad intentions.
Mm.
Because anything that anyone says speaks about them. It doesn't speak about the other person, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So it's very important to listen with discernment and really look at things with detachment in order to see them a bit clearer, rather than keeping these blinders over the eyes to have the cognitive biases that you want to believe what you think is right? Self-doubt can be a gift and our best friend
Mm-hmm. True.
to really polishing the diamond and finding truth, right?
Love that. Love that. Wow. So Suki, I am just looking at our time.
Okay.
What would be one or two? I know one's hard. What would be one or two things that you'd love to share with our audience today that, maybe one thing they could walk out of here and do that helps them really become even more connected in knowing themselves?
If it's a simple phrase and it's in the Muse, it's in one of the affirmations, which I absolutely love. And when I wrote it, I didn't realize the power it had. And I think it all the time. It's if I leave no choice but elegance, it will rain.
Mm.
And why? Because it's the height of self-accountability in measuring how we use our words and our actions. And if we gauge that whatever the other person or however anyone in front of us responds to us is a measure of our communication, not of theirs. It heightens the equation to create a very happy balance because we're holding ourselves responsible for how we communicate first. We're not waiting to see how the other person is communicating with us. And if we're coming from a place of bird's eye view from high dignity and wanting things to go in the right way, and we're being assertive and communicating gracefully, then everything should be able to flow from that, right? Because a lot of times we say, oh, he did that to me or she did that to me. No, let's take it that it's our communication that can heal things, not the others.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that was what you were looking for. You want something more?
No, that's
Does that help?
perfect. And so what, just to summarize that, it's, audience can walk away today with looking at, are you reacting or are you responding? And
100%.
being aware of that communication and how you can help shape that conversation. That gets up to you to do that.
To shape any conversation and on any level, any dimension.
Yeah. Love that. Wow. Thank you so much for being here today. Like, the time goes way too fast.
Thank you for having me with you, Vicki.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And so could you share how people can find you, how they can find the human touch? Just let us know if they have other questions, because I'm sure there will be questions. Let us know.
So on my Instagram is at Sukaiyna Gokal, my name, spelled Sukaiyna, Gokal, Gokal. GardenofAiden.com is Aiden is Ayden. So gardenofAiden.com. LinkedIn is on my name as well, and Facebook is on my name as well. And the Human Touch is launching on the 9th of April, which is my birthday.
Oh,
And yes, it was supposed to launch in March and then it was delayed. And then I said, you know what? Why not? And so it's on my birthday. And then on the 9th and 10th of April, the Amazon campaign runs where you can buy it for 99 cents on Kindle.
okay.
So take advantage of the Kindle, 99 cents. Otherwise, it's available Amazon and all the bookshops everywhere, I guess, 9th of April onwards. And ideally, you buy it on Kindle on the 9th or 10th because that works towards bestseller status. And that will help me to actually achieve the results we need in order to spread it wide and far.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Wow. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, listening in onto the podcast today, you heard that. You can find Suki in all these different places, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. If you have questions, reach out. If you can't find her, reach out to me. I will get your questions to her. Don't be shy. This is a very deep conversation today, and you're ready for it. I know that. I know that you are. Our world is changing, and knowing ourselves will help us navigate things much more with ease and grace. And so yes, go ahead.
I have also put an email address in the book for people to be able to reach out directly as well. I really believe it's important that we all help each other and we navigate this together.
Yeah, likewise. I agree. We lift each other up. We all get lifted. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay. Suki, thank you for taking your time with us today. I'm super grateful for you sharing. And ladies and gentlemen, as you heard, The Human Touch will be out shortly, and you can purchase that on Amazon. You can get it on Kindle for 99 cents. Please do share this episode with someone you feel this would resonate with. And we're super grateful to you for being here and just continuing to listen to the Women in Leadership Talk podcast and supporting us. And as my gift to you, as always, you can visit the Women in Leadership Empowered website, and we have some gifts on there. There's 2 free mini courses you can take, as well as a wonderful leadership quiz that helps you understand how you're showing up in the world. So thank you everyone for being here. Have a beautiful day, and I look forward to seeing you on the next Women in Leadership Talk podcast. Thank you. Suki, thank you.
Thank you, Vicki. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for WIL Talk, sponsored by Women in Leadership Empowered. To learn more about our programs, please visit www.willempowered.com. We look forward to seeing you in our community.